Okay, we were looking at solving rational and radical equations. We did 2 rational equations so far. The first one was where we just found the LCM of the 2 denominators, multiplied by that through the whole thing, which is what creates the nice fraction disappears. Like it creates this nice multi-step equation. In this particular example, we didn't have to worry about our answers because the denominators did not have an x in them, which means there was no way that it was violating like a domain restriction. In this example, here, we solved it a different technique. We did, because it was a fraction equals a fraction, we cross-multiplied, and then we noticed that it had the same binomial factor on each side, which cancels out, solved by square roots. However, because there is an x in the bottom, you did have to go in and check your answers, and we found one of them, although mathematically was an answer, when plugged in, gives an error. So it's called an extraneous solution. And then this was the actual only answer to this problem. Okay? All right, let's go to this one. A little bit more challenging. So, can I solve it like a proportion? Like the last one? No, because I don't have just fraction equals fraction, right? I have fraction plus fraction equals a fraction. Can't solve that like a proportion. You're going to have to solve this the way we did the first one. You need the LCD. We practiced this in chapter R for this reason right here. So that when we came to this, it did not take a week to learn how to find the LCD with these ugly polynomial expressions. If you recall from chapter R, the first thing you need to do to get the LCD is to put them all in factored form. So 3x plus 6 in factored form would be what? They just have a GCF in common, right? It would be 3 times x plus 2. X squared minus 4 is what? Alright, and then this one is fine. And then if you recall from chapter R, I told you to stack them so that you can see what's going on. I'll come over here to do it. Alright, so we have 3x plus 2. Go to the next line, next fraction. Line up anything that matches. And then we have x minus 2 on the last fraction. And so our LCD, if you stack them vertically, and then you just bring down every single element that there is, we have a 3, we have an x plus 2, and we have an x minus 2. If there's an exponent on the end of any of those, you bring that down too. Okay? Alright, so we're going to multiply that entire equation by 3, x plus 2, x minus 2. I'm going to show my work so that you know where my line, because if I go straight to, like I could sit here and do it in my head, but then you're going to be like, how did you get that? So I'm going to show my work on one line. I would encourage you to write it, and then you can decide if you want to show your work when you go to the practice problems. I'm going to copy the whole problem, but in factored form. Alright, so copy the whole thing down. Let me put that space right there. There we go. And now I'm going to show that I'm multiplying the entire thing by 3x plus 2 please know enough to know that that 3x plus 2, x minus 2 is also multiplying to this right here, even though it's not written right next to it. So please remember that. All right, you ready to watch? This is going to blow your mind. I mean, not really. It's not that exciting, but okay. So I need to say. So watch how I do it. When I'm doing this, I always look up here and I say to I write the LCD out next to it on both sides, and then I use my non-writing hand to point, and then my pencil to mark out. So the 3 would cancel out, the x plus 2 would cancel out, and I would be left with, and I'm just going to write it. I have 2 times x minus 2. I'm not going to worry about trying to do it in my head yet. Then I'm going to come over here, plus 1. Here we go. The 3 is not going to cancel anything down here, so it's going to get multiplied by 3. The x plus 2 cancels, the x minus 2 cancels. You see that? Copy the equal. Copy the 4. This x minus 2 would cancel with this one. I'd be left with 3 and x plus 2. So all of the fractions are gone. The only thing that should be left is what part of the LCD the denominator did not have. So if you just kind of say this in your head and then kind of come underneath it like, you know, oh yeah, it's missing 1. Oh yeah, it's missing the 3. Oh yeah, it's missing the 3 and the x plus 2. And then now we clean this up. Distribute, multiply. I would multiply that, then distribute. So we've got right? Then I'm going to take that one over there, and that one here. 25 over 10 is actually what?
2.5.
Y'all see how I got it? Before you circle it and move on, you need to go back to the original and check it. Make sure it's not going to give a 0 in the bottom of a fraction. Back up in the original, in fact, checking your factored form would be easier. Right here, the 0 is what? When I say the 0, meaning you would set that equal to 0 and solve. What 0 would come out of that? Negative 2. What about that one? Negative 2. What about that one?
2.
And then what about that one?
2.
Okay, so does that match any of the zeros we just said? No, so that's the answer. So, two types of rational equations, and that's where you either solve by multiplying by the LCD, or you solve by cross-multiplying the two fractions. Okay? You need to know both. Okay, we have 3 more slides of notes, plus several slides of examples from the homework. Since we just started it yesterday, this due date is, tomorrow's Friday, also senior night, so this due date's Sunday night, okay? So I don't want to necessarily, I'll give you a heads up on a few of the homework problems, but I don't want to go through all of them because then I'm taking away that struggle that you should go through, that productive struggle that is any given math problem. So we'll pick and choose a few that I think might be an absolute headache. Okay, let me show you this. So switching gears from rational to radical. So once again, there's a little bit of a, like, check yourself. Be careful here because you've got to remember that radicals cannot take the square root of, even radicals cannot take the square root of what?
Odd numbers.
Negative numbers, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so when I throw this equation at you, I need you to kind of zoom out and look at the big picture and say to yourself, I'm taking the square root of some crap. Remember, it helps to call things crap when they are. I'm taking the square root of some crap and I'm getting what?
4.
4. Is that possible? Yeah. If I took the square root of what? 16, right? You with me? But what if it was like a negative 4? I'm taking the square root of some crap and I got negative 4. Yeah, so we've got some issues with restrictions here. Let me give you some notes before we dive into the problem. When you're simplifying, but if you're solving the problem and you're accounting for which way it could have come from, if you're okay, all right, you ready? Dive down the rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole.
If I throw an equation at you that's a quadratic, and you're solving it by square roots, you're accounting for the possibility of a positive or negative answer because it's a quadratic, right? What does a quadratic look like, y'all? It's curved. It either opens up or down. Okay? Focus. Hopefully I can do this. If it opens up, it can cross in potentially 2 places. Okay, here's the problem. That's not a quadratic. That's a square root function, which looks totally different. The mother function for square roots is here. You with me? Only crosses the x-axis in one spot. It'll never possibly, not on any planet, cross in 2. And that's because it wouldn't be a function. It is the inverse of squaring, but in terms of keeping it a function, it only has 1/2 the curve there, which means it only has one solution. So that's the problem. So yes, you've been told, or you solve by square root, you got to account for both. Well, now I'm throwing the square root at you to begin with, and so now it's a different set of rules because it's a different graph to start with. Say it one more time. Because the square root function doesn't go into the negatives. Now it can be transformed, picked up, and moved down there. But in terms of taking a square root and getting a negative, the function, think graphically. Don't think algebraically, because that's when the lines blur. Think graphically. It starts here, it goes that way. I can transform it by a stretch, shrink, shift, but I can't all of a sudden duplicate that other curve, which would be the -4. Yeah. So I get that it's a little kind of like, now wait a minute, you've been telling us this whole time, but if you'll, like I was just saying to her, like focus on the graph then that'll help you remember there's only half the curve there. And it starts, mother function is positive, right? Okay, so be careful. Let's make a note. And if we need to, we can put the graph, the mother function right here. Like that is the mother function for the square root of x. So that you remember that we're no longer talking about two possible solutions. We're just focusing on the positive. For instance, the square root of anything, and I'm just throwing this out here. The square root of x plus 5 equals negative 6. If I said solve that, you would tell me there is no solution. Because we're talking about, in terms of the graph, where would the graph, the square root of x minus 5 equals negative 6, like where would they cross? And the answer is nowhere. Now, if you need a graphical representation, I got you. Watch this. Should have done this to begin with. Square root of x plus 5 is the mother function shifted left 5. Right here. Y equals negative 6 is 40 bucks. It's right there. Where do they cross? They don't. So in terms of a graphical representation of why this is no solution, it's because of that. If that helps. Now what I want you to know is if you start with a problem, square root problem, and it says it equals a negative, you should immediately be able to say there's no solution. You don't even have to solve it. There's no solution. Okay? And if you need to come back to the graph, it's because of that. Go to your calculator, enter the left in y1, the right in y2. You will see that they don't cross. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, but, it's late. It's coming. Let's see. Actually, I can tell you.
Negative square root.
What you would have to do, you divide by the negative, which means it would be positive 6, and then they would cross. I feel like that's in the homework. Hold on. I have a note to myself. I think it's in the homework. I might be overlooking it. But before you can actually say if there's no solution, you would need the radical to be by itself to be able to make that conclusion, this is possible or this is not possible. Where are we? Oh, here we are. Okay. All right, so let's look at this one. We have the square root of some crab equals 4. We can proceed. That's a positive number. Let me give you some notes. First, you're going to isolate the square root part. If there's anything extra on that side with the square root, you would need to move it to the other side. Then the opposite of square rooting is
Square.
square. So I'm going to, I don't know about y'all, I like to just write that the whole thing's squared. Some people like to write individually. It's up to you. But if I square this entire function, it would cancel the radicand and then leave me with 16 on the right. By the way, I'm so proud of myself for, I feel like, did I explain that okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Because I've never had a class to really understand, make the connection of, but you always say positive, negative. I just ran with, let me tell them, because I would confuse some if I tried to explain it. But y'all saw it and then I explained it. I feel like maybe you understood it. And apparently there's somebody in another DE math class who is watching these videos because they messaged me saying, thank you.
On
So
a different one?
Yeah. I know, I should get this picture. Alright. Subtract.
That was horrible.
Hi, friends.
No, it wasn't.
He just shook his. They're like,
Did I?
Dad.
Hi, friends. It's nice to meet you.
What did you just say?
I said, hi friends, nice to meet you.
That's
You
what he
told
did.
him to watch mine? Noah Moretti said he's pulled mine up because they were doing something that called on this stuff.
Miss Holcombe,
What?
you should text that person that watches these and be like, what do you think we look like? And then have them describe. They have like a whole character arc in their
Super big
brain.
mouths.
I'm sure he hears that too.
I told the person, I said, you probably think I'm crazy, and they said, no, I actually think the humor it's funny because it keeps me interested instead of falling asleep.
I had some nod off in hard to like literally like.
Is it Dr. Dugan?
No, it was like that all.
Was it Betty?
But like Betty. Like,
I miss Betty.
That's-
Yeah, because we hit her in the head with a tennis ball.
she retired.
Were you on the red show we talked about that?
Were you not in here?
I remember
We threw tennis balls at Betty,
Okay,
and she
okay,
quit. She called Johnson up there in
Okay.
class and quit.
Not her and Auburn.
I didn't mean to circle 5. Hold on. We gotta check it. Why do we have to check it? 0. We gotta check it because remember, square roots have restrictions. So
She's a
make a
stripper,
note.
so.
Check it. ... How do you check it? You plug it back into the original. Plug it back into the original, and you just confirm if you got a true statement. Guys, I know this takes extra work, but I love the problems where I got to check myself because I needed that boost of confidence, like you're doing it right, keep going. Because you will straight up see 4 equals 4 if you did it right. Now we are solving, we're checking here, so you do stick with the positive
He
word.
looks cute, right?
For the same reason we talked about earlier.
Solid. Yeah.
Alright,
It's alright.
go to the next one. What do you think you have to move?
The 5.
You gotta move the 5. You're gonna do this the same way. It will require 2 additional lines of work, and that's because it's gonna be a binomial squared on the right instead of a plain number. You end up with, when we subtract this over here, we have the square root of x plus 7 equals x minus 5. We're ready now to square both sides, but that is a binomial on the right.
So we're gonna have to.
You're gonna have to multiply it out. Please don't write x squared plus 25. That is not the answer.
Middle
You've got a
term.
middle term in there that you're completely neglecting if you write that. You need to write it out like this so you'll remember, then do it. And then multiply that out. So when I have several lines of work and I have stuff over here that is not, I can't do anything with it yet, I like to come underneath and just say, okay, this would be x squared minus 5x plus 25. And then this is x squared minus 10x plus 25. And then I just bring this down like, okay, now I'm ready for you. You know what I mean? It's a technique. I'm ready now. Enjoy the party. That's a technique with not having to write as much, but you're still kind of keeping your work in line.
Wait a second.
Oh!
I don't like
Wait a second.
Oh.
This
There's
is
a
weird.
reason we just had a whole section on solving quadratics.
And
This is a
Dookie head.
quadratic, and you've got to solve it.
Dookie head.
Get everything to one side.
I guess the problem goes on.
No, it does not. Didn't you ask if there was a problem?
Solve it. Check out the people. I need to revolve it.
What in the world?
I knew it. I just played in that scene. That's not true.
This snaps.
That's not true. They didn't see anybody dancing. They don't know. Alright. So we got 0 squared by 17x. 17. 11. Why did I write 17?
I don't like this.
Oh, I do.
I actually hate this a lot.
Your opinion doesn't matter. Can you be quiet, please?
Okay.
9 and 2.
We have a quadratic. A is 1. Let's check and see if it factors. Factors of 18 that add up to negative 11.
-9, -2.
And since A is 1, when you go to do your AX, you should find there's nothing that will reduce. We'll say this loud with a giant red flag like in front of it. Like think of a marquee sign flashing. Please don't jump to the parentheses and forget A. A is important. I don't have A written because it does not look right to write 1x. But if A is anything other than 1, there's another step here. In this case, A was 1. There's no additional step. All right, now pull the zeros out of this. What would solve this to be 0? What about this one? Now we've got to check.
Miss Holcombe,
Ah,
Ashley, come here.
we're going to check our answers of 9 and 2. Please put your electronic distractions down. All right, so we've got 5. Okay, wait a minute. Let me
I can't believe Fatty just jumped
check it in 2 spots. You can check it in the original, which is usually what I encourage, or you can check it in that second line where you moved everything, you know, like if you move things around, it's up to you. I'm going to check 9, and then I'm going to check 2. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Officer Allen, is that what he said? No, he said 3. Oh.
2.
Oh, yeah!
Good job, Miss Holcombe.
Sorry. You should have found 9 to work.
It's moving.
Smythe and,
Here's with Smythe,
Smythe and,
Beck, Hensley.
no,
Are
You disrupted my class.
Can you like move this little side piece so I can like just see the writing, please?
side piece.
You didn't have a business pass.
It's Cooper.
Oh, my dad were never married.
Probably
Might be
teenager.
honest.
He's probably going to look for that sophomore right now.
I think you're right.
That was hilarious.
I want your mom.
That was amazing.
Ex-nay on the drug day.
She said yes to that.
Does anyone have any questions on this slide?
No, let's finish. Let's finish.
Go to the next slide. Now, here's where some of you are going to throw your shoe at me.
This isn't on the exam. It says not on exam, so I don't have to pay attention.
Oh, no.
It's on the
Wait,
exam
why are we
that I
learning
marked.
it?
I don't know that I
I don't know.
have a note to myself.
Which
Because
If we do homework.
I need you, so please let me show you this problem. If you choose to write it down, you're welcome to. You don't have to write it down, but it's one of those things that is college level appropriate. It's just, It's not on the exam, and that's not my doing. I would put it on the exam, honestly. I may make it a bonus question. Who knows? There's nothing. What? Yeah, I might make it a bonus question. But there is something a little different here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so notice we have a radical plus a radical equals 4. The difference here is you have two radicals. You cannot solve this until they're on opposite sides of the equation. So you just pick one to move to the other side. I moved the square root of x plus 5 because I see the plus sign here and I was like, okay, I can subtract this, come over here, and subtract it right behind it. So now I have the square root of x minus 3 equals 4 minus the square root of x plus 5. I'll say it again. You don't have to write this down. You can respectfully tune me out if you want to. All right. I'm going to rewrite what I have because it's kind of hard to tell with the stuff up there.
I'm about to take a picture.
All right.
Copy that later.
I know. Just gonna text him.
You just call him real quick.
No, I'm just gonna. Yes. Just say, hey, K.A. Don't forget you don't have a yellow.
I'm just gonna call him.
Hi.
Wait, what do you want me to say?
Just tell him he doesn't have a yellow visitor.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like he can get
She knows who Cooper is.
So I'm ready to square both sides.
Touchdowns and rushing.
Watch. I'm ready to square both sides. On the left works out nice and clean. It is on the right that we have a problem. The problem is the fact that this is not just a simple radical. This is a number minus a radical, which means there's two terms in there. So it's a binomial, and you're going to treat it as such. So watch how I do this. Again, you don't have to write this down. I keep waiting for the email that says, has anyone noticed so-and-so walking around the hall?
Why is there a Jolly Giant?
I love him.
It means no harm. Unless you're a sophomore.
They don't cancel. We're gonna first, outer, inner, last. So watch.
Cooper's gonna put us on softball though.
First, outer. Now, 4 times negative square root of this crap would be negative 4 of that crap. And then inner, 4 times negative of that crap. Why don't I write plus? Would be minus the square root of that crap. And then last times last. Negative times negative would be positive. What happens when I multiply the square root of x plus 5 times the square root of x plus 5? You end up with just the x plus 5 because it's getting squared, right? I'm showing you where this is coming from. This would end up canceling. Now, what do you notice right here? Look at this. They've got the
same crap.
Radical. So this is up against 16. Okay, you really feel. 16 minus 8 square root
I feel like
of 5.
crap was a cleaner word than what I was going to
And
say.
then this would just be plus x plus 5. Now I can do 16 plus 5. Here's
That didn't sound good.
I have a feeling that was Cooper's fault. I don't know where that came from, but I have a feeling that was Cooper's fault.
Did Cooper fall?
Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty just fell down the stairs. And...
Oh, and the 5.
No!
I don't know what that was, but I guarantee it was his fault.
See, that was around 33 minutes, by the way.
What?
33, 34 minutes.
It's okay.
How are you guys?
JR let him. JR pancaked him.
Officer Allen went rolling down the ramp to get Cooper. He's like rolling.
What do you notice is on both sides?
X.
There's an X on both sides. So this would go and this would go.
Okay, I'm locked in.
We need to get Cooper to come to practice.
Now you've got to go back to what you remember we learned on how to solve these. You've got to isolate the square root. I need the square root of x plus 5 by itself. Well, right now 21's in the way. So I'm going to subtract 21. This ends up being nice, as ugly as it went. And then now I have a negative 8 attached by multiplication in the front.
Divide.
I subtracted it.
Divide.
Sorry. Now listen. I subtracted.
Tico going off over there on the phone.
In case you hear the dog whistle, it's Brody laughing.
X equals 4! X equals 4!
He's wheezing.
T's getting hot.
Subtract 21. Divide by the negative 8.
X equals 4.
X equals. Yes.
Wait, Jack, you know how to do it. That means it's on it.
Where's Cooper at when we need to play a little
Where
game?
did I lose you?
Tell me what yelling all
When you
that.
start
There, yes! Go up one. Go up one.
Right in the line where you have the X.
Okay, let me show you this.
Brody, we're trying to
Right
learn.
here.
Lock
Can y'all's lips even touch together?
Hey,
Oh, he snorted.
Sort of cocaine?
I solved it. I'm locked in.
But let's
Locked in
let
jail.
everybody else lock in.
Who's low?
To McDonald's.
Do you see where I
Cute.
subtracted 21?
Cool, yeah,
There you go.
Locked her in the patio room.
I'm trying to win this shit.
Alright.
Locked her in the Wendy's. Waffle House.
They locked her in there with the pancake batter.
And
Maybe in there
wouldn't
with
it
a
be
pumpkin
my luck
spice.
that on the line where I would write the answer, I've run out of room. So X is 4. Now you would technically need to go in and check that. You can't run with 4 unless you check it. You would have to go back to the beginning, plug 4 in here.
And put it in the calculator.
Where did the Oh, you helped.
No, I just heard a bad word.
Oh. Okay, the X on the left. Where did that go? The one that's yes.
Why does it laugh so hard?
Can we take a potty break?
Why do you all look at
I didn't
me?
have a lunch break today.
It works. It works. Square root 4 minus 3 is square root 1.
I
Plus
just
4 plus
No, I
0
missed.
is 9. Square root 9 is 3. 1 plus 3 equals 4. It works. It's okay.
It's fine.
Over the top, Tutty.
I know that some people would like to see it, and I just wanted to offer it because I love this
I
problem
see.
because while I know it puts like 3 things together, it's just algebra. There's no domain, there's no range, there's no.
This whole commitment
Looks
works.
like a bunch of yapping.
Yeah, it does work. If you check x equals 4, it does work,
Don't get here.
and you will get there. Now,
There we go.
now watch this. Y'all ready? If you go to your graphing calculator and you enter this in y1
swear, if you say.
and this in y2 and then just find the intersection.
Yep,
it's
nope.
4.
I'm never doing that again.
Now I'll grab my shit.
Yeah.
Now,
Put in that 4 right there and I get
Tyler, potty break?
I'm done.
5-star pass?
Y1, y2, find where they intersect.
Okay.
Well,
This is totally
Dude, what are you doing?
I'm trying to make him
That's how you.
Rainbird?
That's how you.
well, I think that's all of the notes.
Yep.
So now I'd like you to move to the homework because I have plenty of homework like, hey, heads up, but I want you to get there first, okay?
Oh, you're